PM versus vendor. Team play for success.
I'm Gabriela and I have been a certified bilingual translator English to French and Romanian since 2010. I consider myself a beyond words vendor and I love being close to my PMs.
I'm Lucia Gutierrez, a localization project manager with almost 10 years of experience. I have worked in many different LSPs with many different hats, but always focusing on project management, as it is the job I enjoy the most.
Hello everyone, we are back with another episode.
Hello Gabriela, hello everyone.
Hello Lucia, and I think you will like this episode. I love all the episodes. I have to be, because we are going to talk about I also leave you the floor.
Translation tests.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the why, the how.
Exactly.
We'll talk all about it.
Yeah, I know this is a hot topic. I know. I know it from the first time that I started in this industry till today. There was not 1 year without this topic. So it's a hot topic. It's an ongoing topic. So let's start with the definition. I will tell you exactly what I had from my side as a vendor. I encountered translation tests, but two types of translation tests. For example, I observed that the PM or the vendor manager, we talked about that in a previous episode about the difference between a vendor manager and a PM manager. And I hope you like it, guys, because it was very, very important. And Lucia really explained the difference between them. So yeah, as I said, I sometimes received a translation test from one of them, and it felt that it was from one going project. So I was really wondering if it's a test or a free work. A second type of translation test was a standard translation test, and I really like that because it means that the LSP wanted to assess my skills. However, I also received sample tests where the project was confirmed, and the PM or the vendor manager sent several vendors a sample from the confirmed project to assess if they are fitted to the project. So I don't know what, Lucia, what type of test you encounter. What you send them, or is the vendor manager who is sending them? I don't know what's.
Yeah, when I was working in a company with vendor managers, it was the vendor managers who were taking care of this. Whenever I was working on a company without vendor managers, then I was the one taking care of it. In any case, you know that I helped setting up the vendor management department for one of the companies I work with. So I'm quite tied to this topic and to this role. So yeah, those three different types of evaluations exist. There is another one as well, which is the portfolio, which is something that I know some companies accept, and not in any of the companies I work with. And this is because a portfolio means that the translation could have been done in any kind of time range. So you might have spent months to do the perfect translation to put in your portfolio, which is not reflecting the actual work or the actual job you would do in a tight situation. So that's why many companies don't like portfolios, because this might be like, this is like an exam, no? You not cheat, but you polish your translation until it's totally perfect, and then in the real world, you don't have time for that.
I was
So the
wondering
other
about that.
three,
I was really wondering about that. Why LSPs don't accept portfolios?
yes, that's the reason why. Because portfolios, you have unlimited time to do the perfect translation, but then on the real world, it doesn't work. Also, portfolios doesn't mean that you know the tools that are needed. You might have
Exactly.
done your portfolio when using Word, just that, and productivity lowers. You might have done your portfolio when you were at university, and that was your exam that was already corrected from the professor. There
Yes,
are many
yes.
reasons why portfolios are not ideal, even though I know many linguists like them. And then the other type of tests, the last one that you said about a specific project that is already ongoing, I've done that whenever the client has requested samples. There are some
Yes.
clients that, because they have internal reviewers, they want the internal reviewers to select the linguists that are going to be working on that project. So that's when I've been sending samples for that specific project. Then the general samples, VMs, vendor managers might send them whenever there is a generic request to get more linguists into the database for a specific topic. And then I know also that some companies, they don't like to send generic samples because the generic samples might have already been translated online. So they might have been published somewhere, and the translators, they can just go there and copy. So what they like is to take one ongoing project that hasn't been published yet, so that they can do the samples based on that project. But that doesn't mean that they are getting work for free. In all my 10 years of experience, I can tell you that I haven't done a translation sample that I have later used for as a delivery. Never.
And this is what I was going to ask you, because you read the the question from my colleagues about the free work when it comes to translation tests. So is translation tests, are they free work or fair evaluation? And from my point of view as a vendor, I don't know what to say. Again, my heart is divided. Sometimes I think it's a fair evaluation, but sometimes I also feel, or I felt, that's free work. When they are coming from LSPs that I know they are human, they are correct, yes, it's a fair evaluation. When they come from direct clients, 100% fair evaluation. Especially a direct client, it always pays better than an LSP. At least in my case, always direct clients pay better. So I think it's, as you said, they have internal reviewers, or at least almost all of them have internal reviewers. So I see it like a fair evaluation. And but I had some suspicious translation tests, and I refused a lot of them. Really, I refused a lot of translation tests coming from LSPs that I didn't know. Maybe I was I don't know, maybe I had a prejudice or something, but I refused them because I didn't know the LSP. I don't know if this is a human feeling, or if I was mistaken, or I don't know. I refused them. And when it comes to translation test, I have to say the thing. I did a translation test for one direct client, like I think 5 or 6 years ago, and I really wanted to work with them. I can't remember the circumstances, but I know it was like, yeah, 5 or 6 years ago, and I did everything right, but I misspelled the name of the company. So
Oh my
the
God.
PM, yeah, no, she was very nice. She get back to me. She said that the translation was very good. Everything, just that I misspelled the company name. So yes, I have to say that sometimes translation tests can be not scary. You can feel a bit pressure to do it. So no, it was okay. I started working with them, and I I paid attention. But yeah, all good. But I misspelled the company name. Voila. So
Yeah, well,
tell
I have
me.
to say that translation tests are not always about quality.
Oh,
Quality plays a role, but it's not about quality.
really? This no, you have
Linguistic
explain.
quality. It's not
Explain.
about, it's not all about linguistic quality, no.
Please explain. And because for me, it's we have to pay attention to the instruction. Have to pay attention to everything, and I paid attention to everything, and I still missed spell the company name.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's about everything. I mean, we are testing your linguistic quality, but we are also testing how do you deliver the job, how easy is to
okay.
communicate with you,
Okay.
how well you understand instructions, if you deliver on time, or if you deliver earlier, or if you deliver late,
Okay.
how easy it is invoicing, all the invoicing procedure, if it's a paid test, how easy it is to deal with you, what's your attitude, do you ask any questions if you have any, or do you send your questions at the end with the translation just as final notes? We are measuring a lot of things that are not just quality, not just linguistic quality. And that's why it is important for us, for LSPs, to do this type of tests, because we
Okay.
are not measuring just your deliverables, but also how easy it is to deal with you.
No, no, I understand. Uh, but sometimes I, if we receive, we know that they say that the standard test is like 200, 250, 300 words, but how can you really assess someone from that test? Oh, and now that you told us that you are also considering other things, now it's more logical, because I wondered, and I think many of my colleagues also wonder, how can you assess someone's skills from a 200 word file? Uh, Now I understand, and it's cool. It's logical. But when we receive a longer file, how can we understand what you're really aiming to? Because really, if I see a sample test of 2,000 words, I think that is not very cool, not very nice to see it. So I don't know how to approach it, really.
Yeah, well, just as a wrap up of my previous point, just imagine in one of the companies I was working on a new procedure of having spider graphs. You know, this type of graphs that you've got like different variables, and then it's
Hmm.
like a spider web for
Okay.
vendors on responsiveness, speed, linguistic quality, following instructions, and there was another one that I can't remember. It was 5 variables. So just for you to understand.
Okay.
Yeah, for longer samples, it really depends. If a company is asking you for a sample of more than, I would say, 500 words, do your research on that company, because it might be a real test, a real approach, and it might be that the client is requesting it. Don't forget, LSPs have clients behind them, but in some other cases, it might be that the LSP is not as good. So look in, for example, in the pros blue board, that's one place where you can go and look. In Glassdoor, you can look in many places, in the same way that vendor managers will look at your process code.
Yes, yes, I see. A quick question. Um, the delivery time, the delivery period, it's hanging in the balance. It's very important. For example, if I send you the test the same day or the next day or 2 days before, even if you give me a 1 week deadline, is the deadline, is the delivery date very important when you assess a new vendor, or
It's not a problem if you deliver on time. However, if you deliver earlier, it might play in your favor.
okay, okay, I understand. Uh, and now I think we're getting to the good part. Why we don't receive feedback in many cases is when we are sending a translation test and we did all the homework, we realized that it's a good LSP, it's a trusting word LSP. Why there is no feedback? What? Because really it's frustrating sometimes to work on a translation test, uh, uh, to ask questions, because as you said, it's a good thing to ask questions, and this is one of the best piece of advices I received in my entire career, is to ask questions when you feel the need. Don't be shy. So why is there is a lack sometimes of feedback? Why don't we see what we did wrong or not, or I don't know?
I cannot tell you. I can tell you that the times that I haven't given feedback is because I'm a bad person, really. Because I haven't had the chance, or I forgot, or normally I try to always share the feedback. However, I have to say there has been times that I haven't done it, and I don't feel happy for that. I don't feel proud of that. Because I think you always need to give feedback because it's fair. It will help you learn if you fail, and it will help you improve your translations if you passed. So there is no reason why people don't give feedback. But it's the same as when you apply for a job and, and the recruiter doesn't even tell you if you have been successful or not. And you are waiting for 2 months, for example, and there are no news. Same scenario here. I cannot tell you, Gabby. It's just that sometimes people don't do it.
I think I know it can be very frustrating. As a last point, from my point of view as a vendor, because in my career, I not only did some translation tests, but I also reviewed some translation tests from other colleagues on the behalf of some LSPs. And I wanted to say that you should be kind. If one day you will have to revise a translation test, be kind, because I know that feedback can be very harsh on some colleagues, and you really have to assess if the translation is good, not because you want to just proofread and change everything. And people, please be or at least realize the difference between a real change and a preferential change. So I don't know if you had experience with translators getting back to you and saying the reviser did a lot of changes, and I know this also applies to projects, but I don't know if you had the chance to have this interaction when it comes to translators tests. But from my point of view, I really want people or that reviser to be kind when it comes to revising translation tests, because sometimes people are nervous. I told you I misspelled the company's name. I did everything right, but not the I don't know. Maybe it was an error. Maybe I was interrupted by something. So I don't know. That's from me.
Yeah, I can tell you that not all the reviewers are good for reviewing translation tests. Some reviewers, they don't want to review translation tests, either because they are not in line with that practice, or just because they don't feel they are the ones who need to be judging whether a translation is good or not. So that's one thing. Another thing is that especially vendor managers, they already know, and we as project managers, we already know that there are some reviewers that are tougher than others and more rigid than others, because there are some reviewers that they just want things done their way, period. So you play with that. Also, when you see that a reviewer that you are using for evaluations, you are getting feedback from the translators constantly saying that this is preferential, then it comes to a point that you realize that reviewer is not good. However, you need to bear in mind that for vendor managers, for project managers, it's very difficult to judge whether a person is being a little bit too much or is just being right, because it's a language you don't understand. So I don't speak every language in the world. So if a translator comes to me saying, "Oh, the reviewer was really tough because it wasn't like this. In my language, it is like that, or it can also be done this way." And then I go to the reviewer and they tell me, "No, it's not right because it has to be done this way, blah, blah, blah." What do I do? Who do I believe to?
Exactly.
Most likely, I'm going to believe the person I've been working with and I already work with and it's giving me good results. Not because I distrust the other person, but that's because I know that person.
Mhm.
Now, if, as I said before, if this person constantly gets complaints from translators saying that this person is very strict, then I start listening to the other people as well. But my first thing is to put me in the on the position of the people I know, because that's the only trust I can give, given the fact that I don't speak the language. So I'm not a good judge on that.
Okay. Yes. I think it's logical what you're saying. I don't know. This is everything I can think about when it comes to translation tests. I don't know if you have something else to add, Lucia.
Yeah, there are some times that depending on the company policy, you might do one translation test to get into the database. And then as we said at the beginning, you might need to do other translation tests for specific accounts, because this is required from the client.
I did
So
that, yes.
this is not something that LSPs want to do because they want to do it, because trust me, doing a translation test is doing like a project itself. Most of the time, this is not paid by the client. So just be patient. If you want to get into a good account, do the second translation test, because most likely it's going to bring you more revenue. That's my piece of advice.
I did that last week. No, actually, I did it like 3 weeks ago, and last week they get back to me and said that the client approved the sample. They even sent the sample from the client with some minor changes with preferential, because they wanted to have there were some proper names that they wanted to keep them like a special style. And yes, now I worked on the project. It was a very nice project, and that's it. So again, it's a good piece of advice for my colleagues, what you said. If you really want to work on a certain account, yeah, consider the sample. If it's a good LSP or a direct client, because you never know.
Yeah, but you need to do your research as well with the LSPs you work with, in the same way that LSPs do the research of the freelancers they work with.
Thank you, Lucia.
So
really, I think that's good. That's very good to know. Let us in comments if what's your feeling.
Yeah, let us know what you think. We know this is a hot topic. We hope we have solved some of the doubts you had. We have cleared the air a little bit and given you some insights. But yeah, let us know what you think, and let's get in touch soon with another episode.
And thank you for your support. Bye-bye. Bye.
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 What you've heard are just our personal opinions. We by no means intend to impose our personal views on anyone. Feel free to disagree, throw tomatoes at us, or just drop a comment to let us know. Thank you!